Another popular tweet that people have been resending to us over the last day. A lot of people have. Ricky Morton apparently is very active on Twitter, or at least his Twitter account is very active on Twitter. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's get the Midnight Express in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Oh, Jesus.
With a quote from Steve Austin a while back saying, Midnight Express and Cornette should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. Followed by The Rock. I co-sign this from the Rattlesnake. My favorite era in wrestling, Cornette and Midnight. Steve Austin retweeted this yesterday and wrote, shoot. What do you think about the renewed push and the renewed interest in you and the Midnight Express being in the Hall of Fame? And is it even?
I think he meant to write shit. No,
well, what do you think of all this?
Well, and actually, I got a fairly connected journalist contacting me yesterday to ask the same thing. Are the Midnight Express going in the Hall of Fame? Let's put it this way. No. Not that I'm aware of, and they're not aware of it either because I've just talked to both of Dennis and Stan over the last 3 days. And I think it was started by the tweets. And I mean, I'm not saying it. Everybody knows because he said it, that Austin, loved the Midnight Express's work. When he was in Texas, we were down in Louisiana, Houston, Dallas. He saw a lot of that stuff then and on through the NWA. And he said many kind things about us in the past. And The Rock, that was kind of his era too, when he became a teenager watching 80s wrestling, and he liked that stuff also. And I mean, it was nice of them to express that sentiment, but it is not, they're not legitimately on the Hall of Fame committee that determines the nominees. If there is indeed such a thing, neither Steve nor The Rock are on it. So I think people then have started the rumor, well, there must be something to it. If there is, we don't know about it yet. And I can spill these beans because I was asked not to say anything, obviously, before. But at the 2017 Hall of Fame ceremony, I had been contacted Christmas week. So they're not getting as big an advance start on this thing as they used to be if there's anything to it.
I can think of another actual issue here, which is, would they even consider inducting you and the Express in the Hall of Fame if you guys won't sign one of those bullshit Legends deals? And would that restrict all of the business you do?
Well, but here's another thing. A lot of people are overlooking this because we kind of go together like peanut butter and jelly. But when they induct wrestlers into the Hall of Fame, when do they induct the managers with them? They don't. So it would be
Ellering went in with the Road Warriors.
Well, okay, then there's the exception to the rule, and kind of I'm the heel version of the exception of the rule in that Ellering was inextricably linked in people's minds with the Road Warriors. Me and the Midnight, same thing. They were baby faces for most of that run. We were heels, but they might not consider that. And to be perfectly honest, if they were going to do it, they kind of fucking shit the bed on their timing, because the heart and soul of the team is no longer with us. One member of the team has an artificial voice box, and the other member of the team that could give a nice speech would probably be Stan would be the one that was least impressed by the whole thing and probably ticked off if he had. Shit, I just thought if they did, it'd be California. We'd have to get to California. He'd be ticked off if he had to fly to California. And he'd be asking what the fucking payoff was.
That's my issue. Go back to my question. He'd find out what the payoff was and say, this isn't worth it.
Well, but here's another thing. To be honest, if you have a Legends deal, some of those guys with Legends deals still book their own fan fest appearances. Neither Stan doesn't want to go anywhere at this point. To be honest, he does very few things. Dennis is doing some fan fests every once in a while. That wouldn't prevent him from doing that. For them to sign a Legends contract when they're not actively doing anything, that might not be the worst thing in the world. I would not be able to do that. nor would I consider it.
Yeah.
But I haven't been asked yet either. So I haven't actually been dwelling on that. But so right now it's a very fine sentiment, but I think the timing is late, especially Bobby would have got the biggest kick out of it, probably the bunch of us.
Plus, they would totally fuck you. They would totally induct Bob Holly and Bart Gunn also with you guys.
Well, they'd be fucking a cardboard cutout of me because I'd know ahead of time and I wouldn't be there if that was the case.
Who inducts you? Who would you actually pick to give the induction speech?
Well,
Steve Austin. Would you think they would let Steve Austin do it?
Well, I probably not. If Austin's going to give an induction speech, they'd want it to be a main event level induction. But we talked about this before a few years ago when everybody was talking about the rock and roll for the midnight. Dusty couldn't because he's not here anymore. Watts probably wouldn't give a shit. JR might be the option there for somebody who was really instrumental in our careers. But then would they want one of their modern tag teams that looked up to us as an influence as soon as he heard he might be able to get on the Hall of Fame ceremony and then started watching our YouTube shit? I don't know. But I'm not taking the piss out of it, entirely in that, yes, Midnight still deserves it, but that's a lot of questions, and I don't know the answer to any of those. So I'm not making any travel plans.
Let me ask you this, because if they inducted you, obviously the plaque would end up on your wall. I mean, no question, because they've given it to you and it means something.
Well, yes.
But do you actually think...
I put all the plaques on my wall. I have one here that Brian Hildebrand gave me for my 30th birthday.
Well, no, there's also some plaque on your teeth. But what I was going to say is, do you think the does WWE Hall of Fame mean something to you? Like, do you see it as like a career-spanning accomplishment, or is it, okay, this is what, like, well, how would you see it?
I'd really like to, but no, I don't, because it's not a career-spanning accomplishment when most of my career I was elsewhere doing other things by choice in most cases. And again, a phrase I used earlier in the show, I guess my stuff that I did on camera in the WWF from 93 to 98 was good enough for government work, but it wasn't, as far as a manager, I was better with the Midnight Express. As far as an announcer, I was better in OVW and or any of the more modern programs that I've done announcing for. As a booker, and I know that's not a criteria for the WWF Hall of Fame, but my best booking anywhere was in OVW probably. So it's, and then also there's the thing where, yes, it's named the Hall of Fame, but also, and I'm not trying to take the piss out of it. And I've said a lot of guys, it's a big deal to them. And it was their dream to go to the WWF, and they had wonderful careers there, and they loved the ring and the chance to show it off. But it's not real because Vince and or whoever now picks whoever goes in based on, as we've mentioned, the criteria. Main event or two names to sell the tickets and get the interest and fill the seats, and then got a woman and a person of color of some description and a 80s favorite talent that falls under a catch-all category.
That'll be you guys, the Midnight Express and Jim Cornette, the 80s subcategory of just anything.
Well, yes, but I'm just saying it's not like that. It's even more egregious than the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame in that not everybody deserving to be in a Hall of Fame for wrestling of any kind, even the WWF. Ivan Koloff's not in it. If Ivan Koloff is not in the WWF Hall of Fame, then Jim Cornette shouldn't be. Or Cyndi Lauper, if we're going with the celebrities or whatever the fuck. So I'm just, again, I'm trying not to have people say, oh, he's just taking the piss out of it, but it's not a big deal to me because it ain't real.
Would you charge extra for your autograph once you became a Hall of Famer? And also...
No.
Would you sign it WWE HOF in the year that you went in?
If they asked me to and wanted me to, I would, but not on every single goddamn autograph, because I already signed thank you, fuck you, bye, and or your friend, and or whatever the fuck else. What am I writing a goddamn novel? No, I know and I just said it's not real, and people say, well, the wrestling business isn't real, but I mean, it's not like, wow. Yes, the Mid-South Wrestling Hall of Fame, if there had been a sanctioned one, or the Mid-Atlantic Wrestling Hall of Fame. I set gate records there. I set ratings records there. I set attendance records, whatever the case. And though, yes, I should be in those halls of fame for those things. I didn't do any of that in the WWF. It was never my fucking intention to be there to begin with. It kind of happened.
If there's not a physical hall, not just for WWE, but for any Hall of Fame, what do you think? I mean, is there another term that could be used? If there is no hall, but you're still calling it a Hall of Fame because of what it connotates, should there be something else that you call it?
Well, old Greg Price down in Charlotte had the Hall of Heroes for his fan fest. And
then he got run out of town. People throw rocks at his head.
But it was a Hall of Heroes, kind of fits.
But it's a hall.
As well as a Hall of Fame.
There's no hall. That's what I think. Hall is the problem.
But I think it should be a big square room rather than a long rectangular hall.
The square room of fame?
The square room of fame. What is the square room of fame?
2.
There you go.
Well, Jim, you may or may not be going into the WWE Hall of Fame this year, but perhaps they would induct you without your permission. They would just say, we own this vast library, this catalog, those years that he was the caregiver for Mr. Fuji. We could just put all of this on TV, make some video packages, and induct Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express. What would you do?
Well, in that case, I would have to call upon the man, the myth, the legend who actually helped Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express copyright Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express so that nobody else in wrestling can use it no more. And I'm talking about this man.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Still to the rest.
That's right, and we got the certificates, as Aunt Lola would say, to prove it, that Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express is trademarked by yours truly, along with Dennis Condrey, Stan Lane, and now the family of Bobby Eaton. So don't anybody get jumpy out there, because you could be hauled into court and slapped around about the head and face, just like those folks down in Louisiana. Did you hear about the Entergy Company chairman, Brian? The man who's just stepped down as the chairman of Entergy, the avaricious cretin that has stepped down after chaos ensued with his energy company. He made $17 million for a salary in 2021, and he leaves the company in shame, I might add, with $43 million worth of their stock. At the same time, there were 350,000 residential customers and 17,000 businesses who lost power anywhere from 1 week to 3 weeks due to their negligence during the hurricane. Because they can pay this guy $17 million a year to run some kind of slipshod operation, a sloppy shop, as they say, but they couldn't reinforce the towers down there to withstand 94-mile-an-hour winds. We're about to get 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts here in Louisville for a rainstorm. Imagine what a hurricane can do, and it was only 94 miles an hour. Boom, all those people lost power, starving, shivering, literally dying in the streets, probably. I mean, the smell alone of the dead bodies in the streets all over the cities of Louisiana would have gagged a maggot off a gut wagon. But this guy gets $17 million salary and $43 million in stock. Well, I guarantee you that Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084, is going to have a variety of those $43 millions that he's going to be giving out to a bunch of those people who lost their power as a result of their greediness down there. There's a major hearing coming up in a couple of days in New Orleans about certifying the class action suit. And meanwhile, across the country, over in West Virginia, there is currently actively underway, and that's a nautical term, I know, but it's also a legal term, actively underway, a mass litigation panel against 75 different defendants, part of the multi-district litigation against the consulting company McKinsey in San Francisco about the opioid situation. And newlawoffice.com at 888-692-8084, filing cases in New York, Ohio, Tennessee, and L.A., not Los Angeles, but Louisiana, on behalf of the dear little opioid-addicted babies. So that's what Stephen P. New is doing to shake the world up and make it a safer place. What about you folks? If you've got something he needs to shake up, give him a call, 888-692-8084.